Hi, my name is Joel Allure, and we've had discussions for ambient guitar and for anyone interested in playing something totally different. The discussion for today is on 12-tone music. Now, if you're not familiar with 12-tone composition, in the turn of the century, the 19th into the 20th century in Vienna, a very, very wonderful composer named Arnold Schoenberg was experimenting with a new type of music. He wanted to do away with tonal music. In other words, the music that we mostly play, even today, is tonal. It's in a key, a major key, a minor key, or as I talked about in other discussions, maybe modes. But Schoenberg wanted to free music from any type of tonal center. So what he did was he came up with a row. In other words, all 12 notes are just as important as any given set of notes. So this row, as he called it, became the center of all composition. There would be 12 notes, and they would not be repeated until we came to the end of the row. Now, the study of 12-tone composition, of course, is a lifetime study. So how can we adapt it for our modern purposes? Well, I've done a few things and I'd like to show it to you. First of all, I would like to play for you a row that I've made up, and it's easy to make up. You could make up any row you want. Just pick use the 12 notes and put them in any order you'd like. So for example, here's a row. Now don't worry about what notes I'm playing, I'll call them out, but let's listen to what a row would be. First of all, B flat, C, E flat, A, F, D, D flat, A flat, G flat, E, B, G. So now, even to our ears today, that's a very unusual sound. Now, we can adapt this to our purposes by, first of all, a couple of different methods. The first one would be to make chord progressions out of the row. We will divide the row, for now, I'd like to divide it into 3 sections, 4 notes each, and we'll refer to that as a cell. We can then base chord progressions, either the bass note, the root, will guide us, or we will use the notes as a melody guide. So let's try both. Now we can use any chord we want. We can use major chords, minor, sevenths, alternative chords, like I talk about in other discussions. So let's try it. Let's take the first 4 notes, and we're going to build a chord progression on those first 4 notes. So we have B flat, C, E flat, and A. Okay? Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to put a plain major chord. In fact, instead of using a complete bar chord, let's just use in the B flat, the F on the 8th fret, like a power chord, and then the D on the 3rd string. So we get a regular major chord, but it's with only the 3 notes. I think it's very, very clear, very pure sound. So here's the B flat. Now we're going to move it up, parallel movement, and that's called chord planing, where you move the chord exactly as it is, up or down the neck, in parallel movement. So let's do B flat, C, E flat, A. So there we have a progression that I think is really nice, and you can use it any way you want, as a background, or block chords, or arpeggio. See, so we're losing a tonal feeling, not the normal 2-5-1 or 1-3-6. This will give you an unlimited reservoir of ideas. You will never run out of ideas to make chord progressions if you use this method. Now, let's use it, the same notes, B flat, C, E flat, and A, but we're going to make the melody now, a chord melody, as our guide. So the movement will be governed by the same notes, but now in the melody. So let's use something different. Let's use chords by fourths, perfect fourths. Okay, so here we have B flat, C, E flat, A. Now that's different. So here's one example of, I used the first four notes of the row that I created, B flat, C, E flat, and A. Now, you know, patterns are bedrock of today's or any songwriting. So now let's take the next four notes, okay? The next four notes we're going to have F, D, D flat, and A flat. I just want to move my notes, okay? So we have F, D, D flat, and A flat. Now let's put a plain minor chord with that. Let's say just an F minor, D minor, D flat minor, A flat minor. Now using major keys or minor keys, you're not going to come up with that progression. F minor, and of course the D flat minor. All these minor chords are a darker sound. Say we put a little B. Okay, so now on that one, as we did before, the bass note drove the progression. Now let's put the four notes in that cell. Let's put it on top. F, D, D, A flat. Okay, and I'm going to use a really nice chord, a minor 6 chord. On the guitar too, in inversion, this is also the F minor 6 can be also called D minor 7 flat 5, and or D half diminished, which is very, very commonly used in jazz, especially in that technique we're using, parallel chord movement or chord planing. So let's listen to the same notes, F, D, D flat, and A flat, however, as the melody note. Very interesting sound. The colors there are, I think, really useful for a background, and then you layer above it melodies, counter melodies, whatever you want. But as I said, I hope you see what I'm trying to show is that from one row, and I'm only using 3 cells, you could come up with an endless amount of progressions. And then on the third cell, this third cell is going to be G flat, E, B, and G. That's the last 4 notes of the row. All right, why don't we put power chords to that? For anyone wanting a more strong, powerful rock type of setting in the background, or it doesn't have to be rock, but let's see what that sounds like with power chords. very interesting sound. Now let's put those notes on top. Okay, and let's use a minor ninth. So this is going to give you same notes. We're putting them on top. So let's listen to that sound. See how we lose the feeling of tonality? Even though we're using tonal chords. I really like that one myself. I think that since the background colors in music as in painting will force the painter or the musician in a certain direction, I think these chords and these progressions will push the melodies or the improvised sections into even the rhythms, the counter melodies in really certain directions. Now, so that's one way you can use the row. The second way that would be as a melody. Now, as I said, we've just discussed how you can use the row, parts of the row, divide it up, and make chord progressions, which will lead you into so many different styles of music and sounds that no one else is using. The second thing we were talking about was melodies. Now, I've played the row. I will play the row for you now, and I've made a small melody out of the 12 notes. Now, when you do this, then you could break it up into phrases, and then you could treat it the way you would treat any melody. Repeat sections of it in any way you want, or maybe improvise using the row. So let's listen to a melody based on the row the one row that I made up. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so you can see now that's not going to sound like a normal melody because it's based on the 12-tone scale. 12-tone row, which will, of course, not sound like any tonal center. And this is what Schoenberg and his they called them his students, but they were really his disciples. Alban Berg and Webern were two of his disciples who modified the 12-tone technique and made it not as, I don't want to say harsh, but if you listen to Schoenberg, this is very, very difficult to first listen to. It's so dissonant and atonal, where Schoenberg and Webern sort of modified it, especially Berg. I found really incredible use of this. Still, very, very takes a lot of study and an open mind to understand it. It was very popular in the universities in the 20th century, not so much now, but it can be used as I think, I hope I've demonstrated, in ways to open your mind and your composition in many different ways. Another way, I should say, that Schoenberg, and we can also use, that Schoenberg, his row was law. In other words, he would make the row, but then he would transpose the row starting on every other note of the 12 notes, and then he would use it backwards. That's called retrograde, and then inverted. What goes up comes down. You make all these different types of rows from one row. Then use that. The row might go this way, vertical, horizontal. Might go vertical, horizontal, up and down. He would build chords from the row, counter melodies from the row. The row was absolute, where people who followed him maybe would make alterations the way we have done. So let's listen to the first 4 notes of the row, combined vertically, and so it would sound like this. So now if I move that chord, and let's take the next 4 notes of the row, that would be like this. And the next 4 notes. So you see the possibilities, countless possibilities from one row. And then of course you can make a new row every day and do this every day forever and never repeat yourself. So if you're interested in that, take the time to make a row and then just explore whatever you could do with it, and you'll come up with an incredible amount of colors. Well, thank you very, very much. Hope you enjoyed this discussion.